They said 2025 would be her comeback year, the rebirth, the redemption arc, the glow-up chapter. But instead, 2025 became the year everything collapsed in public. One awkward post, one exposed lie, one savage call-out at a time. This wasn't a stumble. This was a slow-motion implosion, and the internet had front-row seats. It all started on New Year's Day when she wanted the world to believe she was calm, carefree, and spiritually aligned. Sand, ocean, barefoot energy. She carved 2025 into the beach like it was some poetic rebirth moment. But the camera didn't lie. The sand didn't lie. And the internet definitely didn't lie. Because just off to the side, still visible, were the ghostly remains of earlier takes. Proof that this authentic moment had been filmed and refilmed and staged until perfection. Nothing screams real like multiple rehearsals of pretending to be spontaneous. The callouts came fast, and instead of laughing it off, she slammed the comment section shut. Day 1 of 2025, and already damage control. And that was just the warm-up. When the trailer dropped, the one she clearly expected to silence critics and crown her victorious, reality hit hard. The likes were drowning, the dislikes were flooding. Borrowed house, borrowed clothes, borrowed aesthetic. And suddenly, journalists weren't whispering anymore, they were sharpening knives. Out of touch, control obsessed. A monument to ruthless image management. Words that don't just sting, they stick. And here's the pattern nobody could ignore anymore. Whenever disaster struck somewhere in the world, somehow she appeared, camera crew ready, narrative loaded. Not quietly helping, not anonymously supporting, but announcing presence. That's when the phrase disaster tourist started following her like a shadow. Even celebrities stopped biting their tongues. The accusation was brutal but clear. Without chaos, there was no spotlight. Without tragedy, there was no entrance cue. Behind the scenes, even uglier. Whispers from her podcast days resurfaced, and they weren't flattering. Staff reportedly had a nickname for her. Not to her face, of course, a warning label passed around in hushed tones. When Eva was mentioned, it meant brace yourself. Mood swings, tension, emotional exhaustion. The irony? She allegedly had no idea the nickname existed, which somehow made it even more savage. Then came the article that sent shockwaves through her carefully curated image. A glossy magazine finally stopped playing nice. Deals weren't what she claimed. Numbers didn't add up. Celebrated wins weren't wins at all. One bombshell after another dropped. About money, about control, about how working with her allegedly required therapy appointments just to survive. The illusion cracked wide open, and suddenly the smile disappeared from public view. 2025 was supposed to be her deal-making era. Instead, it became her deal-breaking reputation. A massive book deal quietly evaporated. No announcement, no launch, just silence. A pattern so consistent it stopped being coincidence. Studios and publishers weren't excited anymore. They were cautious, nervous, hesitant. Then the jokes started coming from places she couldn't ignore. A comedian openly mocked how much money had been thrown at her Netflix projects with no clear plan, no roadmap, just vibes, buzzwords, and a camera. Friends of her own husband started speaking out, saying he vanished from their lives, cut off his circle, reshaped entirely around her orbit. Not partnership, absorption. And just when people thought it couldn't get more performative, she posted that infamous social media moment. The shirt, a disaster victim, a celebrity t-shirt, a caption heavy on virtue and painfully light on logic. Critics didn't hold back. Was a shirt rebuilding a home, feeding a family, or was it just another glossy moment designed to look generous while doing very little? Even newspapers called it ridiculous, performative, empty. Then came the brand chaos, a lifestyle launch with a name that already existed. Businesses stepping forward saying, "We were here first." Logos eerily similar to official crests. Even officials abroad blinking in disbelief, wondering if the news was satire. Originality wasn't questioned anymore, it was openly doubted. By now, the fatigue was real. Polls started circulating, rankings dropped, and there they were, planted firmly at the top of the list of celebrity couples people were exhausted hearing about. Not controversial, not exciting, just tiresome. Even friendships, she implied, were close began unraveling publicly. Invitations weren't coming. Photos stopped appearing. That glamorous inner circle she hinted at, suddenly very quiet. Reviews hit next, vicious, unfiltered, and devastating. Shows described as ego trips. Podcasts dismissed as incoherent streams of buzzwords. Critics saying they watched through their fingers from secondhand embarrassment. Ratings tanked, stars disappeared. And the audience? They stopped pretending. Even food experts piled on when her product launch failed spectacularly. Tasted, reviewed, rejected. Metadata sleuths exposed repackaging schemes that screamed shortcut rather than craftsmanship. Authenticity, the one thing she preached endlessly, was now the very thing she was accused of lacking. And then there was the staff turnover. Names appearing, names vanishing. Employees leaving so fast the public never learned who they were. Rumors hardened into reputation. Difficult, demanding, draining. By the time the year hit full stride, the narrative had flipped completely. This wasn't a woman fighting unfair criticism anymore. This was someone being called out from every direction. Media, celebrities, critics, former supporters. The applause faded. The benefit of the doubt expired. And yet she kept going, doubling down, insisting on titles, correcting people in rooms with only 3 people present, clinging to royal branding while claiming to have escaped it. Slow motion walks, forced giggles, awkward moments caught on camera that no PR team could erase fast enough. 2025 wasn't cruel to her. 2025 was honest. And just when people thought the year couldn't get any worse, it somehow did. Because the more she tried to tighten control, the more everything slipped through her fingers. Interviews became word salads, long pauses filled with phrases that sounded deep but meant absolutely nothing. Anchored in your own knowing, living your truth. Pretty words, empty core. When pressed for clarity, she dodged. When asked direct questions, she floated away. The platform was hers, and yet she said nothing of substance. Silence, disguised as wisdom. Public patience snapped. Former supporters, the ones who once defended her fiercely, started turning. Not quietly, publicly. Joking that when she says good morning, you'd better check the clock because it might already be night. Accusations of effortless lying, of social climbing, of rewriting reality without blinking. These weren't critics anymore, these were ex-believers. And then came the obsession with status, the things she claimed she walked away from but clearly never did. She didn't just want recognition, she demanded it, correcting introductions, insisting on titles, even in rooms where it didn't matter, even when it was awkward, especially when it was awkward, walking away from royalty but clinging to the branding like a lifeboat. Fashion appearances didn't help, slow motion walks that felt rehearsed. Laughter at moments that made people uncomfortable. Claims of closeness with designers that unraveled almost instantly. The internet doesn't forget, screenshots don't lie, and mockery spreads faster than praise ever could. Then came the moment that truly made people recoil. A casual post. Feet up, a tunnel, the same tunnel tied to tragedy, and suddenly what should have been neutral turned into outrage, insensitive, disrespectful, tone deaf. Critics accused her of exploiting even the most sacred memories for attention, and this time there was no spinning it away. Awards followed, but not without backlash. Humanitarian recognition that made people blink in disbelief. How does someone accused repeatedly of cruelty behind the scenes receive praise for compassion? The contradiction was too loud to ignore. Then the kitchen disasters. A cooking show led by someone who didn't seem to understand basic food safety. Bare hands, improper storage, experts cringing, viewers horrified. The nickname spread like wildfire, cruel and mocking. The illusion of domestic goddess shattered in real time. And while she preached empowerment, independence, and healing, her own family situation exploded back into the spotlight. A medical emergency, silence, no visit, no public support, not even a convincing private gesture. When backlash grew unbearable, reports of a last-minute letter surfaced. Too little, too late. The public verdict was brutal. Behind the scenes, the money trail didn't help either. Expenses ballooned, donations shrank, press releases rebranded the strategy yet again. Everything felt transactional, calculated, cold. Media outlets stopped holding back. Articles piled up describing her as an influencer with some of the worst reviewed projects online. Forced charm, zero warmth, endless ambition with no payoff. Criticism followed her faster than success ever had. And then came the staffing chaos again. Publicists cycling through like disposable accessories. Executives quietly walking away. Entire leadership teams vanishing. Industry whispers solidified into fact. Working with her wasn't just difficult, it was unsustainable. One outlet described the brand as being in peril. Another said she and her husband had managed the impossible, upsetting everyone at once. They left royalty, burned bridges, tried Hollywood, and somehow ended up belonging nowhere. The final humiliation came quietly, not loudly. A hyped network, a promised empire, announced with confidence, launched with noise. Then nothing. No updates, no growth, no explanation. It didn't crash, it didn't explode, it simply faded, which in many ways was worse, because silence is what happens when people stop caring. By the end of 2025, the transformation was undeniable. The woman who once commanded headlines now chased them. The figure who spoke endlessly about authenticity was accused of having none. The icon in the making became a cautionary tale. This wasn't just a bad year, this was a year where masks fell, where patterns became undeniable, where excuses ran out, where even the most loyal supporters quietly stepped back and said enough. No villain edit, no conspiracy, just a long list of moments that, when stacked together, told one brutal story. In the end, 2025 didn't expose her because it wanted to. It exposed her because she never stopped performing, even when the audience had already left. When the audience had already left. When the audience had already left.